There are places in our world that we struggle to get to grips with. They might have a history we don't understand or a purpose that we can only guess at. Oftentimes, they simply provoke a sense of wonder that we find difficult to explain. We're lucky enough to know where many of those places are, and that means we can give you a taste of them in this video. Scotland is a country of countless myths and legends. There's barely a castle in Scotland that isn't said to be haunted. But none are said to be quite so haunted as the ruins of Eglinton Castle and its croquet lawns in northern Ayrshire. The ghost stories are so well established that the locals even make jokes about them because they've become perfectly accustomed to living with ghosts as neighbors. The ruins are little more than the sandstone walls of what was once a stunning Gothic mansion. The extreme form of croquet that was apparently played here in the 19th century is said to have created a social scandal among the upper classes and even resulted in one death. It's said that the ghost of the woman who lost her life during the game can still be seen roaming the lawns looking for her lost ball. The scandal, by the way, was that the castle's earl added bells to the wickets which rang when the scores changed. Apparently, it didn't take much to create a scandal among the British upper classes back then. We imagine that even our American viewers aren't aware that there's a secret World War II-era Nazi compound hiding in plain sight in the middle of Los Angeles. It's called Murphy Ranch, and it's in a beautiful location among the Santa Monica Hills. The ranch was built by one Jesse Murphy in 1933 with the apparent intention of turning it into a self-sufficient compound. But there's no evidence that Jesse Murphy ever existed. Instead, the property was extensively developed by a couple called Norman and Winona Stevens and a mysterious German benefactor known only as Herr Schmidt. Together, they installed fuel tanks and cisterns for unknown reasons and at great expense. Schmidt was a Nazi sympathizer who wanted to create a Nazi holdout in America, but his dream died when federal agents raided the property after America entered the war in late 1941. The building became an artist colony during the 1960s and 1970s, which partially explains why it's so covered in graffiti now. There have always been rumors that Jesse Murphy, Norman Stevens, and Herr Schmidt were one and the same, but there are no records and nothing can be proven. As Britain grimly faced up to the realities of its third year fighting in the First World War in 1917, a massive team of Royal Engineers descended on an army camp in Southwick Green, Shoreham. Nobody knew why they were there, but the 5,000-strong team soon set about the task of creating two enormous structures. Locals looked on in confusion as the structures took shape in Shoreham Harbor and variously nicknamed them the Ugly Sisters, the Wedding Cakes, and the Mystery Ships. These six-sided towers attracted a lot of attention and could be seen for miles around, but their purpose was a closely guarded secret even to most of the people working on them. The presence of guns and fortifications made it clear that they were part of the war effort, but that's as much as anyone knew. Years later, it turned out that the plan was to hang boom nets between the towers and effectively prevent U-boats from gaining access. By the time the work was done, though, the war was over. The second tower was never finished and so was torn down, but the first was incredibly towed out of the harbor to Portsmouth and became the Knob Tower of Benbridge. Tsarski Kurgan in Kerch, Crimea, is a burial ground fit for a czar. That's a good thing, because that's what it was designed to be. But you could argue that the most impressive thing about this ancient burial mound is the Greek-style archway that provides access to it. The kurgan is in such good condition that it's hard to believe it's more than 2,400 years old. The design of the hallway looks almost modern. We can put that down to the Greeks, who thought that a vaulted limestone corridor was the perfect addition to the otherwise totally normal burial mound. There are plenty of burial mounds in Kerch, but none that look anything like this. The site is made all the more mysterious by the fact that nobody really knows who's buried inside it, other than that it's supposed to be a powerful ancient king. Whoever they were, they're not there now. The vault was raided by tomb raiders centuries ago, and they removed everything, apparently including the body. Christian graffiti has been found on the internal walls, but archaeologists believe that it was left there by early Christians who used the chambers as a safe space to meet during times of persecution. Magura Cave in Rabisha, Bulgaria is home to what many people feel is the greatest collection of ancient cave paintings in Europe. Aside from functioning as a shelter in prehistoric times, this cave became an art gallery that was used and added to by early humans for hundreds of years, perhaps even thousands. There are paintings here that range from the Neolithic era all the way through the Bronze Age. It's difficult to date cave paintings, but most archaeologists agree that the oldest of the paintings here were created around 10,000 years ago. The range of subject matter is drastic, with some works dealing with typical hunting and feasting scenes, and others that show people indulging in elaborate ceremonies or meeting animal-headed gods. One of the most controversial claims made about Magura Cave is that the black and white squares that adorn one of the walls might be the world's first attempt at creating a solar calendar. Rather than using paint of the kind that we're familiar with, much of the wall art inside Magura Cave was created using guano. For those who don't know, guano is basically bat excrement. Laws change from country to country, but some laws are universal. Take, for example, the laws of gravity. Unless you fly into space, the laws of gravity apply everywhere. Or do they? Ask a tourism guide in Jeju, South Korea, and they'll tell you that the laws don't apply on Road 7126988, also known as Mysterious Road. If you pour water on this road, you'll watch in amazement as it flows uphill. Drive a car to the road and put it in neutral, and it'll start climbing uphill all on its own. What's going on here then? Strange magnetic forces beneath the ground? A localized tear in the fabric of time and space? The seemingly gravity-defying effects of Mysterious Road are caused by nothing more sophisticated than a convincing optical illusion. The road has a downward slope of 3 degrees, but its surroundings make it appear to have an uphill slope instead. There are other places in the world where this strange phenomenon has been noted, but few where the effect is as convincing as it is in Jeju. Recently, tourists who've returned from Japan's Kyushu Island and experienced Hakaku Tunnel have started complaining that the octagonal tunnel gave them the creeps, and they can't quite put their finger on why. Maybe it's the fact that the tunnel has been carved straight into the side of a mountain, and very few people know when or why. The existence of the tunnel has been known to the residents of nearby Misato for generations, but it never occurred to them that they could have been making money out of it by walking tourists to and through it until far more recently. The unusual design of the tunnel has been compared to the corridors of a spaceship in a science fiction show. But there was no such thing as a space fleet when the tunnel was created in 1915. Instead, this was supposed to be a railway tunnel to connect Misato with the nearby town of Kumamoto. The design was specifically chosen to minimize the risk of rocks falling onto the tracks. It was a clever idea, but the railway was barely used and closed down in 1964, quickly becoming forgotten thereafter. While we're in Japan, we're going to do a little climbing and find our way to the summit of Mount Hachimanté in the northeast of the country. This is where we find Kagami Numa Lake, a place where a bizarre and unique annual phenomenon turns the lake into a dragon's eye. Local legends say that the lake is where two banished love-struck dragons would meet in secret thousands of years ago. The scientific explanation is that the effect is caused by ice forming atop the lake, snow piling on top of the ice, and pressure from the spring thaw melting only the snow in the middle of the pile, thus creating the illusion of an icy iris with a watery pupil. The effect is extremely temperature-specific and tends to last no longer than a week before the rest of the ice also melts and the effect disappears. The beauty of the dragon's eye effect was a secret known only to the people of Japan until a photograph of it went viral in 2016. Since then, the lake has attracted thousands of people from all over the world every year. The House of the Seven Chimneys in Madrid, Spain, is known for more than just having 7 chimneys. It's also said to be the most haunted place in Spain. The 16th century building is in Plaza del Rey, just a few minutes' walk from Gran Via. It's said that King Philip II had it built as a secret hideaway where he could conduct his various love affairs in peace. It's also said that a lady of his court called Helen gave birth to his illegitimate child here, and that Philip had both Helen and the child killed to hide the truth of his philandering. The king pinned the blame for her murder on her father, who went on to hang himself in the same house where his daughter met her fate. These tales were thought to be nothing more than spicy urban legends until a restoration project in the 19th century caused the discovery of the skeleton of a woman hidden within the walls of the property, surrounded by a few 16th century gold coins. The discovery of the woman is a historically documented fact, so we're forced to wonder if the king indulged in infanticide after all. The twisted trees of Alticane in Spears, Saskatchewan, Canada, are a bizarre thing to look at. What made the trees look like this, and how can they survive in such an unnatural shape? We'd have to travel back in time to find the answer to that question, thanks to the documentary efforts of photographers and a few painters who came along before photography was even invented. We know that these aspens have grown in this manner for hundreds of years. Aspens are usually tall and straight. In fact, they're known for being much straighter than the average tree. These aspens, by contrast, have twisted trunks and branches that wrap around each other like tendrils. It's an odd thing to look at during daylight hours, but at night it looks like the setting of a fantasy horror film. To make things even weirder, there are countless other aspen trees in the surrounding area, all of which grow normally. The most likely explanation is a genetic mutation of some kind. Aspen trees are actually clones of each other rather than individual trees. So once one tree mutated, the mutation passed to all those around it. Don't worry if you're not convinced by that explanation. Plenty of scientists aren't either. Here's another strange Canadian sight. In January 2017, the North Bay area of Ontario, Canada, was treated to a one-of-a-kind New Year light show. If it weren't for the fact that so many people managed to take pictures and video footage of it, we'd never believe that it happened. It looks like something from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We can't thank alien visitors for these lights, though. This is an all-natural occurrence with a down-to-earth explanation. This is an atmospheric phenomenon known simply as light pillars. They happen in very cold temperatures when ice crystals form lower down in the atmosphere than they normally would. Once that happens, the crystals begin to reflect every source of light that hits them, whether that's street lights, car lights, or anything else. Instead of lasers beaming down from space, these are lights traveling into space, being reflected back to the surface by the ice, thus creating the illusion of a pillar. The same effect is also responsible for the halos and sundogs that some travelers report seeing while making their way across the Himalayas. The effect of a meteor hitting the Earth can be devastating. We'd ask the dinosaurs to confirm that, but we can't, because the one that hit the planet during their time killed them all. If you survive the effects of the impact, though, the holes they leave behind can be strangely beautiful. The most symmetrical and pleasing large meteor crater in the world is the Wolf Creek crater in Australia. Australia is so sparsely populated that most of its population didn't know the crater existed until a plane flew overhead in 1947. Although it later transpired that the Aboriginals had always known it was there and referred to it as Candamalo. A subsequent scientific survey concluded that the meteor impact took place around 300,000 years ago. It left a hole 3,000 feet wide and 200 feet deep. Based on that, the meteor probably weighed more than 50,000 tons. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it would have hit like an atomic bomb, so it's fortunate that there was nobody near it at the time. Today, it's a beautiful tourist attraction, albeit one that's difficult to get to. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and you will be the first to know when a new video comes out. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.